Hello Indian Springs family. Today we're on the driving range. We're testing the latest and greatest in driver technology. Got Titleist, Ping, Callaway, Cobra, and Taylormade represented. So what we've done, we've already hit a few with each of the drivers. Hagen is going to hit another one with each of them. Jacob's going to discuss the technology that's within each club head. Then we're going to write down the average numbers that we gathered from each using Trackman. And then we're going to give you which ones are the best in different categories. Now, a couple of them, keep in mind, club fitting is very important. Only one of the drivers has been custom fit to Hagen. The other drivers we got as close as we could with the supplies that we have on hand. So if the spin and different numbers are not quite ideal, again, we got as close as we could. That's why you don't see like the spin number listed kind of on our chart here. So starting first, we've got the Titleist TS3 driver. Let's go ahead and let's rip it out there. So Titleist has two drivers in their new line. TS stands for Titleist Speed. They got a 2 and a 3, TS2, TS3. TS3 has got a movable weight, kind of looks almost like a golf pencil in the back. You can flip it around for more fade or draw bias or neutral. Still the adjustable hosel setting. Lots of speed. I've been on Titleist staff now for about 4 years, and the drivers have been okay. This one's really stepped it up. Very happy to see the improvement there. So next in line here we got the Ping G410. Jacob, tell us about what they have there.
So with the Ping, what they've done basically is, and actually, the turbulators on top have been a pretty common facet for the last few generations of drivers, but they also now have a forged face, which makes it thinner and also a little bit hotter ball speed. And they've streamlined, they call this internal dragonfly technology. So if you've ever seen Bubba Watson's driver, he's got the pink on some weird spots in his driver. It's actually highlighting what's inside the driver. It lets them move the CG lower into the back, which lets the ball launch higher with less spin and makes it more forgiving. And it also has 3 different CG weight locations. You can do fade, neutral, which provides the deepest and furthest ball speed, as well as draw bias. And this comes in a low spin head, a plus head, which is standard, and then a straight fit head, SFT, which is for people that struggle with the fade. So we'll give that to Hagen. And as earlier, right, and Mark, you can write it down now, or?
Yeah, at the end we're going to write down the averages that we gathered from each of the drivers. So one important factor we've seen a lot with club fitting is people say, well, that felt really good, whether it be a driver or an iron. Feel a lot of the times is it's kind of how we process the sound. So they've done a lot of testing. They put noise canceling headphones on players, had them hit drivers. How'd it feel? They kind of give them a muted response because they don't know. When you hear it, you automatically perceive that everyone's a little different, as either, oh, that felt really soft or that felt really hard, whatever the case may be, based on just how the sound of the head is.
So, as a popular brand, Callaway has really reinvented themselves over the last few years, and this new Maverick line of golf clubs, in particular the driver, is one of their better, I would say, lines of drivers in a while, for a couple of reasons. So you hear a lot about the AI technology. Well, what that is basically is a supercomputer where they can put whatever specs they want it to spit out that conform to USGA and RNA rules and get a finished product. Of course, standard is their jailbreak technology, and what that allows is when you actually hit a golf ball, the face expands slightly to absorb the hit. Jailbreak minimizes that, giving you not only more consistent contact, but also more consistent ball speed. They've also done something with the face called variable face thickness. A couple other brands have done it. Titleist in particular is one of them. And it almost looks like little dunes behind the face. And it's similar to Taylormade's twist face technology, but it's more robust. It's more across the face instead of on the toe and the heel. So that not only improves the sound, which is a big complaint that they had in the last few generations, but it also increases your likelihood of hitting it straight and a little bit further. And another thing that is pretty important, at least for them, is they've actually reduced the head size on the Maverick line. This allowed them to cut drag by 40% compared to their last Epic Flash driver, and actually by 60% with their Rogue driver. So if you think they've reduced the drag, allowing more club head speed just in one line of driver, I mean, it's a pretty big deal. And this comes in Sub-Zero, Standard Maverick, and then also a Maverick Plus.
So Hagen is on Callaway staff. That's the one driver of the bunch that he was fit for. So the numbers should be a little more optimal there. So something we're carrying this year as well is Cobra. So we've got Cobra fitting equipment, their new Speed Zone driver, and Fairwoods, right and left-handed. You guys are welcome to come hit them. We have them in the shop. Check them out and demo them at any time.
So another thing that Cobra did, and one thing that's been big on their last few drivers, is this milled face. So they take an entire block of, I want to say, CCC stainless steel, and they forge the face all in a milling process. And this actually new one, they call it the infinity face. So you've seen it in the F9 where it was more of a circle. Now it's a circle, but there's an infinity sign in the middle. One for branding purposes, obviously, but also then to help the sweet spot, kind of like if you remember the Covert series with Nike. This one has two movable weights, right? So obviously if you want to hit it lower, you can move the weight to here, or to more towards the center. If you want it to go higher and further, you can move the heavier weight to the back. And this comes in two different driver options. This is the standard option. They have a more forgiving plus model. And it's a great looking driver. They've also taken the top line, very similar to what Ping has done with the turbulators. And they've added a couple ridges to reduce drag and just make it overall more aerodynamic.
Hopefully on the video you're able to pick up some of the sound differences. There's definitely a difference between each one of these heads. I'm not saying good, bad, and different. Again, everyone kind of has a preference. If someone's been a Taylormade guy, they're familiar and comfortable with that sound. Ping, Titleist, everybody, like I said, is a little different. Hopefully you're able to hear some of that acoustics on the video.
And then lastly, right, we'll hop into the sim. Obviously, Taylormade's an excellent driver company, led the tour for many years in it, but also just overall branding sales. So one thing that's really important that they've done with this Taylormade is, and the thing since they came out with the M series, is they've had this off color just on the top of the crown, right? And it was bigger with the M2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of that. What they've really done this time is they've actually made it smaller, so it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. They've gone to a lighter carbon fiber crown, which all these brands are trying to get lighter crowns, therefore they can make the CG lower. Basically just launches it higher, reduces weight, makes it easier. But another segment, right, is they've also, to get a higher CG, or lower CG rather, higher MOI, is they've moved it on the bottom with this little weight right here. So that's gonna move it more across the back of the face to then produce more on the front of the face. And they still have their speed foam injection as well as their twist face technology. This driver comes in a standard sim, a sim max, and a sim max draw for those who struggle with the fade.
Now we're going to write down the averages that we got. Again, we've hit 3, 4, 5 balls with each driver. All right, so where were we at on the Titleist as far as average?
So average swing speed for Hagen was 117 miles an hour.
Okay.
Ball speed was an average of 169 miles an hour. Average carry was 285 yards. And average total distance was 303 yards.
Okay. And the Ping G410?
With the Ping, he had an average club head speed of 117 miles an hour as well. Ball speed was 169 miles an hour as well. Carry distance was an average of 285 yards. again, the average carry or total distance was 303 yards.
Okay, Callaway.
All right, so again with the Callaway, he actually averaged a little bit faster with that one. He averaged 119 miles an hour club head speed. Closer to a full 170 ball speed there. Carry distance was up to 287. And total distance was actually 310 yards in the average. Now again, that is the driver that he was custom fit for, so again, that can show the importance of being custom fit.
And the Cobra.
So with the Cobra, he was actually a little bit faster. He averaged 120 miles an hour club speed. Ball speed averaged just around 168 miles an hour. Total carry with that one was 286. And overall total was 305. Taylormade Sim averaged 118 club head speed as well. Ball speed was 167 miles an hour. However, the carry was actually 287 yards with an average of 308 total.
Okay, so these numbers, again, keep in mind the shafts, like we said previously, are not all custom fit. For example, the Cobra, which we were surprised right out of the gate, the club speed was higher with it every time. But with our limited shaft options for a player that swings it as fast as Hagen, we weren't able to maximize the ball speed and get into that perfect window like we'd like to. All of the top manufacturers that we have here, okay, if you're properly fit, like he was for his Callaway, everything is pretty close to optimal. Club speed was a tick higher. Again, that head is really fast as well. Ball speed was a little better. Total carry was the greatest, which I would have expected before we did this test because, again, that was custom fit for him. Now, you may say, well, 358 yards isn't a lot. It definitely is. Would you rather hit a 9-iron or an 8 into a hole number 2? Okay, well, now he's at 310, and if he catches it on the button, it may be 320. Now that's a whole different thing. So that's one really important aspect of fitting. Now we're kind of going to have our leaders, if you will. So total distance is the Callaway Maverick. Again, like we discussed, everything was pretty close to optimal, so 310 there. Now sound, like I said, is very individual. We listen to all of them. You guys, what's your vote on the best sounding one?
For me personally, I think it's the Ping. I might be a little biased there, but I've always enjoyed the way a Ping driver sounds. So,
I'm gonna probably say, I know this is gonna sound a little biased, the Callaway driver. I've been playing it for about 2 or 3 months now, so I've kind of gotten used to the sound. But I also do like the Titleist and the Ping as well. They just sound like a real solid off the face sound. So.
Yeah, and again, there wasn't any of them that sounded real baseball bat like some of them in the past have. So we could probably just say kind of all of them on the sound are good this year. Previous years it hasn't been that way. Some brands have been really loud or really too dull. It sounded like you mishit it even though you didn't. This year everyone's improved. They stepped up their game on that. Now fastest, I added this category kind of 2 parts, right? So we got swing speed and ball speed. So fastest I would say is the Cobra / Callaway. Right, because the club speed was greatest with Cobra, ball speed was greatest with Callaway. Those two right there, that's always a number when we're fitting. What's fastest and what can you hit twice? Hitting 1 out of 10 really fast does not help you when you go to play golf. So we need to hit with a good grouping out there. Accuracy, dispersion, if you will, all of that counts a lot. So accuracy is also a category. Now again, some of the shafts being not quite optimal for a player that swings it close to 120. So the ball has a tendency, it can curve a lot. Now, we watched, all the balls hit, guys. Which one do you think overall was keeping it in a closer grouping, given the kind of the shaft variance there?
I think given the shaft variance and obviously not necessarily being fit for him, I would say as far as the top 3, I would go definitely the Ping, the Maverick, and then as well as the Titleist. I would probably lean more towards the Ping driver being the most accurate. I think with the proper shaft, the numbers might have shown that a little bit better, but I think obviously him being custom fit for his Callaway Maverick is going to bring in his dispersion more just naturally because he's fit for it.
I have the same feeling. I think the top 3 were probably going to be the Titleist, the Ping, and the Callaway. Like he said, I am custom fit for this Callaway driver, so I do feel like I have a little bit better dispersion with it. And I mean, not saying anything about the other drivers, but I guess if I would have been custom fit for those, I would have loved to see what actually the dispersion with those compared to my Callaway driver would have been. So
I think the couple surprises, we're deeply into the golf industry. We know kind of what goes into the technology, what's new. But the Cobra, the club speed, that was really surprising to all of us. And the sim actually surprised me a little. The Taylormade sim driver, it sounded a little better to me based on kind of what I have heard. So that sounded better, which, again, sound, players really like sound and feel. And also, if you see the ball come off and it's a certain sound, hey, I really hit that well. Or I hit it, it's kind of dull. I may have still hit it well, but in your mind, you don't think that you did. So, really interesting facts. Hopefully this gives you something to think about. We have all of these available for you to test out and for you to get custom fit. And everything as far as the golf operation is continuing in a modified format and keeping everyone safe. And we hope to get back to normal here soon. Thank you.